Hey YouTube, Diesel Dan Peters here. I hope it's not too blurry or anything like that. I just got the heater going, so the screen might fog up a little bit. But I wanted to discuss what I noticed the biggest problem with all of these smaller diesels are. Most of them that come in through here that are running rough or have supposed low compression, it always seems to root back to the valves, whether they're not sealing. So what happens is, this is a pretty prime example right here. As you can tell, there's a lot of carbon buildup on the top. Does this one have it too? This one's not as bad. This was completely carboned over here. Same with the valves. All of these, actually I was supposed to be soaking this valve too. Whoops. This is how it should look though. Yes, I know it's not going to stay that way for a long time, but if it's a properly running engine, it's not supposed to have that much carbon on the top like that. Big thing that helps is to not purposely be trying to make it black smoke or anything like that. Another thing is always change your oil, because clean oil always helps with that too. The blacker the oil, the more gunk that's going to be over here. That's just from my experience. So with these valves, because I did take them out, and not this one specifically, but I have 3 other ones over there, which in fact I'm going to put it in the mix. I'll have one valve that's not as clean as the others. I'm still going to end up fixing that. Because that carbon ends up building up inside the engine, and it's not just on the head, it'll end up being on the piston. Your rings will get all that carbon deposit on it, and that'll also cause it not to seal as well. This engine over here was completely black inside. If you can tell now, you can actually still see, well, probably not through camera, but you can still see the original scoring on the walls that came from the factory, or if this was rebuilt, which I doubt it was. It's exactly the way it's supposed to be. The glazing, I believe that's what it's called, the glazing. Might be wrong, please correct me if I'm wrong. I still have a lot to learn with these. But as you can tell, it is way cleaner in here now. This entire cylinder should have perfect compression at this rate, after everything I did. The mix I do is what a lot of people recommend. Automatic transmission fluid and acetone. Why the mix? So, I'm sure you might have seen previous videos, but automatic transmission fluid has a lot of detergents in it, and the acetone, besides evaporating pretty quickly, it'll thin out the transmission fluid enough where it'll seep into the rings and really clean out any carbon deposits that are in the engine, or anything that could be causing the rings to be stuck, any problems like that. That's what I did with this engine, and when I first got this, I had put it all together. Compression was really low. Now, you go to try to pull on it, you'll break your you'll end up breaking your wrist, or I'll break the pull start at that. This one is still soaking, and you can tell this was originally red, almost completely black now. So there's your proof. It really does clean really well. I also have the grease and wax remover, which works as well, pretty well. I wouldn't leave any of this stuff in the engine too long. Maybe the acetone and the transmission fluid is fine. The grease and wax remover though seems to work the best on the heads and anywhere where you're going to be scrubbing it. I usually use either 1000 grit sandpaper because it's very fine, or I've been using a toothbrush. So you literally get it over here, and you got to be patient with this stuff. This gets a lot of the bigger deposits off, while the 1000 grit will get any of the remainder that's in like the little crevices and stuff. Keep note though, if you do this to the heads where you actually take the valves out, such as what I did with this one, and as you can tell, this is pretty clean now. You will have to reseat the valves, so you're going to have to lap the valves. It's pretty easy to do. Like I said, a lot of this stuff you can find videos on as well. I just want to share something that I've noticed with these engines. because this isn't the first one I got in that didn't have the proper compression. I just used some valve grinding compound. That tool should be right up here, right here. What I did was I just cut the smaller end a little bit, and this works fine. You can even hook up, as long as you don't get any of this valve grinding compound in the actual valve stem, you can actually just go and use a drill. So you put the valve through. Well, first you put the compound on, get the valve in there, and get the drill from this side, and you clamp it on, and carefully, very slowly as well, because you don't want that stuff getting all inside. It's just it'll end up being pretty bad. Once you're done with that, you take the valve out, you check to see how it looks, whether it's sealing or not. And the way I check to see if it's sealing or not is I'll actually, after I reassemble everything, I'll put water in each hole one at a time, and I'll let it sit for about a minute. If I see any dribbling at all, then I know I have to go back and do a little more, use a little more of the valve grinding compound on it. And that seems to work great for me. I don't know if it worked great for everybody, but that's what's worked great for me with all of these engines. Yeah, I just wanted to share that with you guys. That's about it with this. This is my little how-to video on how to fix these little engines when they have low compression. Now, sometimes the rings are shot. Don't get me wrong, they can be shot. These diesel engines are made to run pretty much forever, but rings are what I'd have under a maintenance item. Like, so every 1,000 hours, that's something I would definitely do on these. When you do all that stuff, you want to check all the clearances, make sure everything's precise, because even though these are the Hondas of the small engine diesel world, you don't want to screw them up, because these aren't cheap. I've been selling them off for a pretty decent price, and while I know how to work on them, you don't want to have to worry about actually messing up the engine. Such as with this engine here, it looked like someone had just finished rebuilding it. Everything looked great. They ran it for a little bit. They must have heard some kind of knocking. The injector did not have the proper seal on it, and it was actually tapping against the top of the piston. Luckily, I have a guy who bores everything out, and it's going to get a 0.05 overbore. So the cylinder is going to get bored out, going to have a brand new piston and all that. But it ended up destroying the crankshaft on here. Now, I guess I could have went back and just sanded this down a little bit. I don't go that route. If it's got scoring to the point where let me see if I can get a little bit of focus today. My focus is just not working. Let's try this again. That's a little better, I guess. You could probably tell there's a lot of scoring on that. The reason why this other crankshaft has all of this, what's that stuff called? It's like CNC something, I think. No. It's got a special spray on it. It's freeze off oh, it's right here. I'm sorry. Fluid film. Jeez, I'm naming everything that it's not. Literally everything that it's not. I luckily had a spare engine that I've been using for parts now, and I have the crankshaft that'll fit this engine. It's the exact crankshaft, and that's what it's going to be replaced with. Luckily I had that though, because otherwise I would have a pretty huge problem. The fact that it's as shot as it is, And this bearing was actually shot as well. So this engine definitely has some use, but it's definitely reusable. Not this one, but the engine itself can still be fixed after the bore. And it's sad because the cylinder itself really has minimal scoring or anything, but at this rate, at this point, it's just better to do it all right, or you know, there's going to be problems in the future, and anything that I fix or sell, I guarantee it'll run. But yeah, that's, I don't want to go too far on a tangent with this, but check your valves. If you have a lot of carbon deposit on the head, on the valves themselves, clean it up, relap the valves, check the valves for clearance issues or anything like that. If that doesn't work, then your rings are probably shot. You can give what I do a shot, you know, the transmission fluid and acetone. If that doesn't work though, your rings are probably shot. But because even this engine right here, with the Yanmar L48, it has maybe 42, 46 hours on it according to the hour meter, and it was just filled with carbon deposits. So this should definitely make it run perfect now. Hopefully, you know, we'll have fingers crossed for that one. But I'll keep you guys updated. I'm gonna keep working here. I don't want to lose too much nighttime on this video, but there's my little video on this. So stay tuned for more. Diesel Dan Peters signing out.